The Young and the Restless spoilers full Wednesday update October 15, 2025. In Genoa City, where every phone call can shatter the illusion of peace, Nick Newman is about to face a moment that changes everything. According to new exclusive spoilers from The Young and the Restless, an unexpected call from Sharon Newman sets off a chain of events that ripples across the entire Newman family and beyond. The call itself is brief, cryptic, and deeply unsettling, enough to send Nick into a state of alarm. Sharon, who has been spending time in Los Angeles for business connected to her mental health foundation, suddenly sounds distressed, her voice trembling through static as she tells Nick she hasn't been able to reach Noah Newman. Then the line cuts off. For Nick, that silence is unbearable. A father's instincts and a former husband's protective nature collide in one chilling instant. He immediately knows something isn't right, and without hesitation, he decides to go to Los Angeles himself to find out what's really happening. Before leaving, Nick stops by the ranch, the powerful yet volatile center of the Newman universe, to inform Victor and Nikki of his plans. The patriarch listens, his expression unreadable, a flicker of concern crossing his face even as he insists that Sharon is strong and can handle herself. But Victor has always believed in controlling every variable, and when one of his family members disappears from communication, his protective instincts turn into silent fury. Nikki, ever the emotional compass of the family, tries to calm both men, sensing that this sudden trip could reopen old wounds, especially for Nick, who still carries guilt from Sharon's past breakdowns and the losses that shaped their family's history. As Nick departs, Victor's eyes narrow. He tells his security team to monitor the situation discreetly, though he pretends not to worry. Deep down, he knows that when Sharon calls for help, danger is never far behind. Meanwhile, the rest of Genoa City moves under the shadow of its own tensions. Phyllis Summers, never one to stay silent for long, has found herself once again in a fiery confrontation, this time with Kane Ashby. The two have been circling each other for weeks over business disputes and personal entanglements tied to Kane's ambitious new AI project. Phyllis, sharp-tongued and suspicious, believes Kane is hiding the true purpose of his technology, that it's not just about image enhancement but also data manipulation and surveillance. When she confronts him, her fury is volcanic. She accuses him of using her expertise to legitimize a project that could cross moral lines. Kane fires back that she's overstepping, that she's driven by ego more than ethics. But under all the shouting, there's tension of another kind, a flicker of old chemistry, the kind that never fully disappears between two people who understand each other's ambition too well. Their argument becomes a dance of power and attraction, ending with neither winning but both feeling shaken. For Phyllis, anger is just another mask for hurt, and Kane, still haunted by his failures with Lily, sees too much of himself in her relentless need for control. At the same time, Kyle Abbott finds himself navigating his own emotional labyrinth. Still entangled in the mess surrounding Claire Newman, Kyle's frustration has reached its breaking point. He corners Victoria Newman, demanding to know where Claire is staying in Los Angeles. Victoria, protective of her niece and mindful of the delicate family situation, refuses to disclose the location. But Kyle is relentless, his concern for Claire has turned into something deeper, perhaps even obsession. He insists that she needs help, that she shouldn't be isolated after everything she's been through. Victoria, balancing empathy and caution, reminds him that the last time someone tried to save Claire without understanding her trauma, it almost ended in tragedy. Yet Kyle's persistence wears her down. She finally admits she's been in touch with Claire but warns him not to interfere. He leaves more determined than ever to find her, unaware that his actions may soon drag him into a crisis far larger than he realizes. Back at Society, the hub where so many of Genoa City's secrets unfold over glasses of wine and strained smiles, Chelsea Lawson and Adam Newman are deep in conversation when Victoria enters. They tell her about Nick's sudden decision to go to Los Angeles and his growing fear that Sharon may be in trouble. Adam, always the cynic cloaked in charm, tries to make light of the situation, saying that Sharon is tougher than anyone gives her credit for. But beneath his easy tone lies unease, not just for Sharon, but for Nick. For all their rivalry, Adam knows that his brother's tendency to play hero often puts him in danger. Victoria listens, her composure impeccable as always, but her eyes betray loneliness. When Adam and Chelsea invite her to join them for a drink, she hesitates, then admits quietly that sometimes she feels alone, not in power or status, but in spirit. Adam, half amused and half empathetic, jokes that he never thought he'd hear his sister admit that. The moment softens them all for a fleeting instant, three people bound by ambition, guilt, and the endless need for redemption. As the night deepens, each of them carries a secret weight. Chelsea is still haunted by the past, her manipulation of Adam's emotions, her guilt over past deceptions, and her desire to finally build something real. Adam, torn between love and self-sabotage, can't shake the feeling that his family's chaos always finds a way to consume him. And Victoria, despite her strength, wonders whether she's lost too much of herself in her quest to mirror their father's dominance. It's a rare moment of quiet vulnerability among three Newmans by blood and by fate. But the peace doesn't last. By the following morning, new information begins to circulate, whispers from Los Angeles suggesting that Sharon may have been seen arguing with someone outside her hotel before vanishing. Nick, now already en route to the city, doesn't know the full extent of what awaits him. The storm he's about to walk into could expose not only Sharon's current danger but a deeper network of deceit linking multiple Newman family members to secrets long buried. And at the heart of it all may be Noah, whose disappearance might not be an accident after all. Back in Genoa City, Victor grows restless. He senses something far larger unfolding, something beyond even his control. Nikki urges him to let Nick handle it, but Victor is already making calls to contacts in California, determined to ensure his son's safety and uncover what really happened to Sharon. His mind, as always, turns to strategy. Every problem has leverage, every mystery a motive. What Victor doesn't realize yet is that this particular crisis may be immune to his influence. For once, money and power might not be enough to save the people he loves. Phyllis, meanwhile, begins connecting dots of her own. Her intuition tells her that Kane's project and the recent chaos surrounding Newman Enterprises might be linked. She remembers past corporate espionage scandals that nearly tore Genoa City apart, and she starts to suspect that someone, perhaps even inside Newman Media, has been using technology to monitor or manipulate communications, including Sharon's call. Her curiosity turns to obsession, and in classic Phyllis fashion, she can't resist diving deeper. She enlists a hacker contact to trace the origin of Sharon's last message, unaware that her snooping could place her directly in the crosshairs of a corporate war she doesn't yet understand. Elsewhere, Kyle finally manages to locate Claire, setting up a meeting that promises more emotional fallout than answers. Claire, still struggling with her own fractured identity after the trauma of her past, reacts defensively, unsure whether Kyle's concern is genuine or intrusive. But the meeting also sets off another chain reaction. Victoria learns of it and is furious. Not only does she feel betrayed, but she also fears that Claire's fragile progress could be undone by yet another Newman family intervention. It's a pattern that seems to define their world. Every act of love becomes an act of control, every good intention spirals into collateral damage. By the end of the week, the threads begin to converge. Nick's search in Los Angeles brings him face to face with an unsettling discovery. Sharon's belongings are still in her hotel room, untouched, and her phone has been found discarded near the edge of a remote hiking trail. The authorities are baffled, and Nick feels a cold dread settle in his chest. It's the same feeling he had years ago when he thought he'd lost her before, that uncanny sense that history is repeating itself in the cruelest way. Meanwhile, back in Genoa City, Victor receives a coded message from one of his contacts suggesting that Sharon may have stumbled into something connected to a private biomedical initiative tied to a major corporate donor, a name that happens to intersect with both Kane's AI venture and one of Adam's offshore accounts. As the walls close in, the Newman family finds itself once again drawn into a web of secrets, each trying to protect their own while hiding truths that could destroy them all. And though no one can see it yet, this new crisis, born from a single call for help, may be the catalyst that exposes not just who's behind Sharon's disappearance, but also the growing corruption within Newman Enterprises itself. For now, all Nick knows is that he can't stop searching. The woman who once saved him from himself may need saving again. And as The Young and the Restless moves into its next chapter, the question that lingers is as old as the Newmans themselves: how far will a family go to protect its own, and what will they lose in the process? The tension in Genoa City continues to build, each character caught between truth and deception, heart and ambition. Chelsea Lawson sits quietly at Society, her coffee untouched, eyes tracing the patterns in the foam as if searching for meaning. When she asks Victoria Newman about Claire, the question seems casual, but the weight behind it is unmistakable. Victoria, composed but restless, admits that she's a little worried. Her daughter has gone to Los Angeles to meet Holden Novak, a man whose name already carries unease. Victoria confesses that she's been wondering if this trip was a good idea. Something about it feels wrong, a mother's instinct whispering in the background of her carefully controlled composure. Before Chelsea can respond, a familiar voice cuts through the air. "I couldn't agree more," Kyle Abbott says, appearing behind Victoria with the kind of timing that always makes conversations turn sharper. Victoria turns, wary. Kyle's expression is tense, his tone more urgent than polite. He asks if they can talk privately, and once Chelsea excuses herself, Kyle wastes no time. He tells Victoria he plans to go to Los Angeles himself. His voice is calm but unyielding, the voice of someone who has already made up his mind. Victoria raises an eyebrow, asking if Claire even knows he's coming. "No," he admits, "and I need your help." The words hang in the air like a challenge. Kyle insists that Holden is bad news, a manipulator, someone who hides behind charm but leaves chaos in his wake. He's seen this pattern before, and he won't let Claire walk into it blind. When he asks Victoria for Claire's address, she immediately refuses. Her tone sharpens. Giving that information to Kyle would mean betraying her daughter's trust, and Victoria is not willing to do that. "This is Claire's decision," she says coldly, "not mine, and certainly not yours." Her words cut through him, but he doesn't back down. For Kyle, this isn't about control, it's about protection. He's haunted by the idea that Claire could be repeating the same mistakes others made when they trusted too easily. Yet Victoria's refusal only fuels his determination. Kyle walks away, his expression hardening into resolve. He's used to being told no, especially by Newmans. But he's also an Abbott, stubborn, impulsive, and unwilling to let go once his instincts take hold. Somewhere deep down, he knows his feelings for Claire go beyond concern. It's guilt, obsession, maybe even something close to love, the dangerous kind that makes men chase answers across cities. Meanwhile, at the Genoa City Athletic Club, another collision of ambition and emotion unfolds. Kane Ashby sits across from Phyllis Summers, the faint hum of the restaurant doing nothing to ease the tension between them. He looks exhausted, not from work, but from carrying the weight of his reputation. He admits he needs to change how people see him. Phyllis leans back, amused, her lips curling into a smirk that hides curiosity. "You want me, of all people, to help you rebuild your image?" she asks. Kane doesn't flinch. "I need you," he says quietly, and it's not the tone of manipulation, it's confession. He talks about the respect he's lost, from his children, from Lily, from himself. Phyllis listens, trying to suppress her skepticism. She's heard this kind of speech before from men who wanted redemption but didn't know how to earn it. When she asks what his plan is, Kane hesitates. He doesn't have one. "It's more like an idea for a plan," he admits, forcing a small laugh. For a moment, the honesty disarms her. He wants to do something positive with his AI software. A way to help people, to make up for his mistakes. But Phyllis, ever the realist, sees opportunity where he sees salvation. She tells him that technology like this can be used for power, not penance. Her mind works differently, where Kane sees guilt, she sees leverage. The exchange between them becomes a philosophical duel, the cynic versus the idealist, though neither fully belongs to their role. Kane insists that no one wants to be the villain. Phyllis smirks again, eyes glinting. "Some people do," she says softly, "and you've done a fine job playing the part." Her words are sharp, but they hide an unexpected tenderness. Phyllis knows what it's like to be branded the villain, to be judged by her worst impulses rather than her intentions. In Kane, she sees a mirror, a man punished more for perception than crime. "Are you really that vulnerable?" she asks, almost tauntingly, but her tone betrays curiosity. Kane doesn't respond immediately. He looks away, lost in thought. Finally, he says he just wants to change the story. He'd give up everything in a heartbeat, he tells her, if it meant he could look his children in the eyes again, if he could stand in front of Lily Winters and feel like the man she once believed him to be. Phyllis doesn't know how to respond. For all her bravado, she's moved by the rawness of his words. But her instincts take over, and she reminds him that this isn't what they agreed on. They were supposed to use the AI project strategically, to outsmart the people who underestimated them. Now Kane's talking about redemption instead of results. "Billy was right about you," she says finally, her frustration barely contained. "You don't know what you're doing from one minute to the next." It's a low blow, and she knows it, but it's easier to strike than to care. Kane doesn't react with anger, just quiet disappointment. The truth is, Phyllis might be the only person who could help him rebuild his life, and yet she's the one person least capable of believing in second chances. The moment stretches between them, heavy with words unsaid. There's history here, two people who thrive on chaos, drawn together by ambition and loneliness. Phyllis sees the broken man beneath Kane's calm surface, and he sees the fear behind her defiance. Both of them are pretending to control the narrative, when in reality, the narrative has been controlling them all along. Back at Newman headquarters, Victoria tries to bury herself in work, but her mind keeps drifting to Claire. She can't shake the feeling that letting her daughter go was a mistake. Holden Novak's name gnaws at her, and Kyle's warning echoes in her thoughts. She replays their conversation, his intensity, his conviction. Maybe he's right. Maybe Holden isn't just another harmless acquaintance. But even as she considers that, she reminds herself that Claire deserves freedom. She can't smother her with the same overprotection that once poisoned Victoria's own relationship with her parents. Still, she finds herself opening her phone, scrolling through Claire's messages, hesitating over the call button before locking the screen again. Some instincts are too painful to follow. At the same time, Kyle prepares his trip in secret. He books a flight under an alias, determined to find Claire before something goes wrong. In his mind, this isn't an act of interference, it's responsibility. He remembers how fragile she seemed when they last spoke, how much she wanted to start fresh. He also remembers what Holden Novak's name represents, a reputation built on charm, whispered scandals, and broken promises. Kyle's gut tells him that Claire is walking into something dangerous, and he's not about to let her face it alone. As the night deepens over Genoa City, these separate stories begin to weave together. Phyllis and Kane plotting redemption disguised as innovation, Victoria torn between fear and trust, Kyle crossing lines in the name of protection. They are all connected by a quiet desperation to rewrite their lives, to undo choices that have already defined them. But in the young and the restless, intentions rarely lead to redemption. More often, they pave the road to another crisis. By morning, Victoria receives a text from an unknown number, a single line that makes her blood run cold. Holden isn't who he says he is. She stares at the message, unsure whether it's a hoax or a warning. And somewhere on the outskirts of Los Angeles, Claire Newman's world begins to tilt. Holden smiles across the table, charming as ever, but behind that smile is a secret powerful enough to drag the entire Newman family into a new storm. And as always in Genoa City, the past is never past, it's just waiting for the right moment to resurface.